Right, we are back after a little break from our coffee chats, and it's been a few weeks, Bryce. Before we get into our really exciting chat today about root cause of health issues, how have you been and how have the last few weeks been for you?
They were great. We were down in Florida, so it's already hot here. We
Yeah.
had like just kind of a brief moment of some cold air, and then now it's already back in a beautiful outside. We have Groundhog's Day. The groundhog did not see his shadow, so that means that we are going to be allegedly, according to folklore, that means that we will have a fast spring. Spring's coming fast. I think it's when he doesn't see it. What's his name? Fox Tony Phil from Philadelphia. So you guys let me know if I got that accurate or not. But apparently he did not see his shadow, so that means spring is coming very soon. So
We've
I'm
got signs of spring here, right? All the flowers are coming out. Everything seems to be bursting into action. So we could be right. I don't know if Groundhog Day applies to the UK as well, but
Listen, as time goes on, I'm beginning to think these old wives' tales
yes.
are actually the true science versus the as we start to learn more and more and more about the world around us. I'm like, maybe we should actually pay attention to like Groundhog's
Well,
Day.
they
Maybe.
really do. I mean, one of the ones we have is red sky at night, shepherd's delight, red sky in morning, shepherd's warning. And that's really, really accurate. And when the cows are lying down in the field, it's going to rain and all these things. So there's a lot of truth to all these. And that does really tie into what we're going to be talking about today, because we really wanted to go through some of the root causes of people's health ailments, because and by health, we're talking about physical and mental health, because obviously they're intrinsically linked, and spiritual health, because there's so much misinformation out there, and we have to be careful how we say it. But people have tried to overcomplicate things big time, haven't they, Bryce?
Yeah, it's actually when we talk about your health, the more that you really integrate the information, the ancient information really, and it's pretty simple. It's not, yeah, people do like to overthink it and overcomplicate it. And you're so right, Catherine. And I, 'cause when we talking about the subject, I was thinking more about, the subtle body versus the gross body, which we can talk about because so many people are so disconnected from their subtle body. But as you were talking about it, like with these folklores, like we say, pink at night, sailor's delight, pink in the morning, you better take warning. It's kind of the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's going to come and they never fail. So these are the subtleties of the universe, but we have these same things within our body as well. And we're just so disconnected from that because we've been overeducated in certain aspects or over programmed in certain aspects that we've lost the simplicity of what maybe the old wives knew, or our ancestors actually knew that was valuable information that kept them healthy. And hopefully the more we return back to that ancient knowledge and wisdom and we start to understand our own health a little bit better, we take some of our sovereignty back and our power back, because if you don't have your health, you don't have anything.
Oh, 100%. And the thing is, it goes with everything: your health, your wealth, your empowerment, your sovereignty. They're also intrinsically linked. And we now know there's been a huge agenda for goodness knows how many years to really take this away from us and make it so when people try to make things too overcomplicated in any areas of life, it's just to cause confusion. And we see this in the mainstream all the time. And we see this in our education system and also in our health system. But talk us through from your point of view, starting off, Bryce, in terms of when we're looking at the root cause of health, because most people are not thriving at the moment. That is a fact. What are some of the key areas that you look at?
Well, I think for starters, especially from my perspective and my line of work, I really do believe that people are so disconnected from their body that they
Yeah.
don't even know sometimes how crappy they feel. Now the silver lining in that is that the human body is so resilient and the human mind is so resilient that it will continue to support you even when it doesn't feel good, but you get used to it, right? So you don't even realize how crappy you feel until you make a shift and a change. And I think what's happened, what I've noticed, Catherine, and this comes back to, again, we know the food pyramid is a bunch of crap. Like we know, but I think people are so, even though we look at all the people on the planet, everybody has a different body, a different personality. We can see there's differences, but we have this idea that that health is just this template. And
Yeah.
that's this is a healthy food, this is a bad food, do this, do that, do this, do that, this will help you. And I've noticed too, Catherine, and you might speak more on this as well. a lot of times we look at, and listen, again, I come from a family of Western doctors. I think Western medicine is great, especially in emergency situations. If you need your appendix taken out,
Mm,
you're not gonna come to Catherine or me, right? You're gonna go to a surgeon. We're gonna send you to a surgeon. But they're not trained in nutrition,
mm.
are they? They
Not
don't.
at all. And nor vets, very, very, very tiny amounts. And the training they're given is from people that have got ulterior motives. So, like they take the pet food industry, the nutrition, the training the vets get is from people that make the processed food that they're trying to persuade the vets to sell. And this is a really core issue because from my point of view, it's very, very simple in terms of getting the mind and body back to health is you take the toxins out, and this is increasingly challenging because we're bombarded by loads more toxins, visible and invisible, nowadays than we were even 20, 30 years ago. There's constantly adding new ones to the list that we need to find out and educate ourselves around. And so you take the toxins out. So if you can't take the toxins out, you can't get nutrition into the body. So the way I like to explain it to people, really simple, is imagine I've got two buckets. My hands are two buckets. And this one's full of really clean spring water. And this one's dirty, horrible, toxic water. If I take a sponge, open it up, squeeze it tight, put it in the toxic water and let it open up so it's saturated, that's saturated with the toxic water. When I lift that up and put it in the lovely spring water, it can't absorb the spring water. The spring water can't flush through because it's full up. And this is what happens to our cells at a cellular level because we're, the EMFs, the glyphosate, the pesticides, the herbicides, the heavy metals, what they're for the aluminium. I won't say too many more trigger words, and that's without even what they're putting here or forcing you to take medication or suggesting you take medication. So most of our gut microbiome is completely shot. Very, very few people have a healthy microbiome, and probably no one living in civilized society, and I am using that in inverted commas. So therefore, not only can we not get the toxins out of ourselves, but we can't get the nutrients in. And then we get this cycle that goes on. And suddenly you get to middle age and you develop these health conditions that have been building up for years and years, but your body suddenly gets to the stage where you can't cope. But it's so easy to reverse it, isn't it, Bryce, once you know?
Yeah, I'm laughing because I relate to this. So I was born, I've talked about this before, and sorry guys if this is TMI, but if this helps someone, I will be more than happy to talk about it. I was born with a horrible digestive system. And if my mother watches this, she can correct me if I say the timeline a little bit wrong because I don't have memory of this. But when I was like 6 months old, I was rushed to the children's hospital because my body was rejecting the whatever they were giving me. I think it was formula at that time, so my mother dried up pretty quickly. I was either puking it out or it was just running right through me. My whole life I was in and out of kids hospitals, waking up in the middle of the night, projectile vomiting. I could not, my stomach hurt all the time. For most of my childhood, I was in and out of the doctor's office trying to figure out what was going on. I have a really hard time going to the bathroom. I will go, if I'm not paying attention, I will go days without going to the bathroom. And that is so bad for you because like Catherine is saying, your colon specifically is like, it's like your sewage system. It's what
Yeah.
gets the out. And if it's backed up, all the toxins in your blood can't go anywhere. They can't flush out of you. And I remember when I was probably about 15 years old, and this was the last time I ever went to a colon doctor. And I was expressing like I cannot go to the bathroom. At this point, I was old enough to realize how much it affected me, how much it affected my mood, my energy, my happiness. You have the same like neurotransmitters in the stomach that you do in your brain. So when you've got digestion issues, it can cause depression, anxiety.
Massively.
Yeah. And the doctor goes, I don't know, just eat more fiber. And I remember sitting on the table and I said, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. I've tried that. It just gets worse. I swear, I look like I'm 6 months pregnant. It just gets worse. He goes, well, that's all I know to tell you to do. And then it forced me. And now I do, Catherine, I've had a lot of people in my life off camera accuse me of having an eating disorder because I do have trauma around food. I'm very careful with what I eat now because I know how my stomach, I don't have one, but I know what I can eat, what I can't eat. And it took me getting into yoga. It took me going to India. It took me studying the Ayurvedic system and also figuring out that I'm Rh negative, and that's common for Rh negatives to have a messed up digestive system, to go, oh, this is an easy fix. this is easy. I've been eating all these foods that don't mesh with me. So
Yeah,
my body shuts down. And when I started working with that and started flushing, all of a sudden everything changed for me. And I talked about subtle body issues. Some people don't even know they're constipated, but you can tell by inflammation in joints. You can tell by eyes. Like if I eat something that's not good and my body just freezes and doesn't, it just sits there, I get rashes under my eyes.
yeah.
That's a sign. Besides the fact that I feel like crap, where I go, okay, I've eaten something that I shouldn't have. It's affecting my health. Now I need to course correct. Now I know what I do to remedy that problem. But it's so true because even in traditional yoga, you guys, like it is a rule. If somebody is constipated, we don't let them practice. Because if the colon is that compacted, doing the practice, doing these poses could end up internally bruising some of their organs.
Absolutely. Plus, also, it's going to push the toxins back out again to where they should be removed from. So it's really, really damaging. And, you mentioned about the link to depression or mood. It's really key because we now know that most of the serotonin producing area is in your gut.
Yeah.
So, if your gut is out of balance, which virtually all of us are now because of so much wrong with our food system and depletion in the soils, etc. So, really tuning in with sort of saying, what are your body's symptoms? What is your body trying to tell you is so, so key, because when you follow a few basic principles, you've hit on something very important. There is no hard and fast rule about what foods are right for people, apart from we know highly processed foods are bad for us. So if we're talking about real foods, there's so much controversy about what chemicals are in certain fruits and vegetables and things like this. But if we go back to nature, we were designed to eat a variety based on different times of the year, because obviously food availability would vary hugely at different times of
Yeah.
the year.
Yeah.
So yes, if you eat spinach all day, every day, you're going to overload on oxalates, but that doesn't mean spinach should be avoided because it's got oxalates in it. It's got lots of really good stuff in it as well. So we get obsessive about things as humans, don't we? And forget that everything's about balance.
Yeah.
How important is your studying about looking into bringing the body back into balance?
Well, it's so funny, Catherine. I was watching this I love all the funny TikToks out there, and there was this millennial, and I'm technically a zennial, so I'm like right at the end of X and right at the beginning of millennial, and she was like, us millennials aren't aging, and somebody asked me why, and she goes, I think it's because we grew up on preservatives, so our body's preserved, and then I got to laugh about that because that was part of the problem. Is I
Yeah.
was born in 1983. And all these foods were coming out. You had these diet foods that people were eating that were available. It's fake food. And as a kid, you could see my stomach issues as being a hindrance, but for me, I look back and I say, no, that was actually my superpower, because from a very young age my body was like, no, no, I can't eat this fat-free devil's food cake cookie that's from Jenny Craig. No offense, Jenny Craig. I can't. I need some real. And I noticed too, when I would eat like a piece of fruit that had preservatives that I didn't know, I could tell immediately. My
Yeah.
stomach would immediately start to hurt. And so when I started to figure that out, I was like, oh, my body is actually, this is not a health issue. My body is so attuned that I'm picking up on things that other people maybe aren't even picking up on. I'm so sensitive to this. And I think that's so important. And the seasonal too is so important. Yes, there are ancestors, for most of our ancestors' existence, there were just certain foods that weren't going to grow in certain seasons. And they accepted that. So maybe if we follow the rhythm of Mother Nature, our body's going to come more into balance with itself. Like I'm a huge lover of cantaloupe. I love cantaloupe. It's one of my favorite fruits. I love it. Cantaloupe season lasts for a long time down here in the South because it's warm. But right now we're not in cantaloupe season. And I keep trying to get a cantaloupe, and every time I eat it, it doesn't taste good. It's hard. It makes my stomach hurt. And I'm like, you should know this by now, Bryce. Like, just wait a few more months and it's going to be back. And so we have like tomato season. Like, you talk to a farmer. If you're confused about this, go talk to a farmer. They know. And it's funny, Catherine, because I saw this picture the other day of people out in the field spraying. I'll be
Yeah.
careful what I say. They were spraying, and they all had hazmat suits on. It was like, why are you, if this is something we're going to eat, why do you need to wear a hazmat suit while you're spraying it? So,
Absolutely.
And even with, I've learned too, like I was telling you off camera, like a few days ago, I went for a run, and I rarely go for runs anymore, but I've learned to listen to my body with exercise too, like what exercise my body wants to do. And if we look at even different exercises, they're not just from an emotional standpoint, but from, if we look at just the simple physical standpoint of an exercise, there are different triggers. And so an exercise like running will shake up and loosen up organs.
Yeah,
So if you guys don't believe me, Google pictures of people pooping themselves in marathons.
yeah,
It happens. And so sometimes your body might crave that because instead of twisting certain ways, it actually needs to kind of shake itself loose a little bit and to get that kind of up and down motion, like doing an inversion. Like if you do a headstand, you're at technically what we call resting your organs because you're flipping them upside down. And so it's allowing them the time to kind of drain,
mm,
which is something that's vitally important to your health. Your organs are not, their functions aren't just, the kidneys aren't just there to help filter through to dump stuff. They're actually energy organs. They hold other information. And when they're sick, when they're weak, when they're weighted down with toxins, they can't function for you in the energetic way they're supposed to. And so yeah, it's this is so important. This is, and I think once people figure this out, everything else in their life is going to fall into place because they're going to
yeah.
take their back, their power back, their clarity back.
Oh, we wouldn't be in this position at all if we were more in tune with our bodies and we were getting those back into a basic degree of physical health, because our bodies can cope with a lot, as we've talked about a lot. So we're not looking about being perfect here. But when we look at the rise in mental health issues, obviously there's loads of reasons for that. But one of the main reasons is because people's bodies are so toxic in their gut microbiome. If you imagine, we are way more bacterial and microbacteria, fungi, viruses which aren't alive, but so parasites. We have more cells from non-human things in our body than we do humans, and that is just a fact. And we talk about our gut microbiome, but actually every organ's got its own microbiome. But let's stick with the gut. Now, what happens is because the younger generations have grown up with so much false food, everything is sprayed, everything's irradiated, everything travels miles and miles and for months and months around the world. So by the time it gets to you, it's also grown in soil that's poisoned and nutritionally depleted. So not only is it full of poisons, it's lacking the key vitamins and minerals. Now, anyone who looks at my Instagram will see I've done loads of posts about magnesium recently. Why? Because magnesium is a mineral that's involved in over 600 metabolic processes in the body. It's actually probably nearly 1,000. But the thing is most of the magnesium supplements that are sold are synthetic man-made versions, and they're not available to the body. So if you get a label of something and it says magnesium 500 milligrams or whatever, you can't pick an apple or any natural bit of food and tell exactly how much is in it, because every apple's slightly differently. That's why it works so well with our body. That's why if you use natural parasite cleanses made from herbs, you never get resistance to them, because every single wormwood plant is slightly different. So your body can't, they're evolving at the same rate as we are. So when you look at why so many people have depression issues, it's because their gut microbiome's one of the reasons. There's also toxicity getting into the brain. But when your microbiome, your gut is so out of sync and so diverse, you start craving the wrong things and you make the wrong lifestyle choices. So I think about it like good gremlins and bad gremlins. And, the bad gremlins are saying, eat more sugar, drink Diet Coke, do this, do that, because they want to stay alive, but they're the ones that are actually killing you. So when people start getting their physical health back in balance, so many other areas of their lives start to change. They're not depressed anymore, they're not anxious, their energy levels go up through the roof, they can see things, they can see through the falsehoods that we're being fed all the time in a different ways. It's like, we talk about opening up our pineal gland, but the pineal gland can't open up if it's full of toxins.
Right.
So when we're talking about the root cause, so many people will say you've got to have really important, loads of really expensive tests done, but you don't. You have to learn to listen to yourself and go back to some good old-fashioned common sense advice and absolutely get someone, you know, this is what I do with my clients all the time. This has been the core part of my work for 20 years. And the reason it works so well is because it's easy for people to follow, because the principles are really easy and they don't have to go out and have all these expensive lab tests that, quite frankly, are out of date by the time you've even got the results back. I'm not saying there's never a reason for tests, because there are some cases where you do need to get diagnostics done, but a lot of it can be solved without that, and with very, very basic things, putting back into our body in a form that our body can use it.
I love that, because it's like the end of the Wizard of Oz, where she's like, the power has been in you all along. Like, you are, and that's the big thing with the gross body and the subtle body. And I was actually going to talk about this, because I feel like what you're saying is absolute. Most people, you know, again, Western medicine does have its place. It
Yes.
absolutely has its place for an emergency situation, for really intense health issues where you need an intervention, for sure. But most of the time, the power lies within you, and you don't even have to have a fully intense, like, medical degree to even pick up on the subtle body response. Your body's constantly talking to you. And when I say subtle body, like, the gross body is like the big body. Like, we feel our biceps when they're sore. We feel our quadriceps when they're sore. We have heartburn, we feel it. We're connected to that, but so many people are disconnected from their subtle body response. Like, you know, that they get a little depressed after they eat this one particular food. That's actually what's happening. Is it's not their depression, it's this food that their body is they can't digest. Like, they're not kind of picking up on that. And
Yeah.
so, like, so when like, we do on we did with our 30-day shadow work challenge and our 60-day shadow work challenge, I didn't give anybody any diet. All I did was I said, I want you to write everything you eat down, everything. Like, if for breakfast, if you have eggs and toast, you write down the eggs. If you cook the eggs in olive oil or butter, write it down. Whatever you put on your toast, write everything down. And then you wait 45 minutes to an hour and you write down how you're feeling. And over time, this is going to start to show you and teach you, like, where maybe you're missing something, where your body has actually been telling you this whole time something is off. And then knowledge is power. Then once you know that, then you can take the proper steps to go to someone like Catherine or a nutritionist or whatever it is that you feel comfortable going to start to, like, course correct this
Yeah.
one thing that's totally in your power to correct. It's like, I love watching children eat. I know that sounds really strange, but
It's
I
a
love
very good point.
watching, like, my nephew and nieces when they're really little, because, like, my niece May, she's 2.5 years old. She doesn't know what junk food is. She doesn't
Mm.
know that a carrot's a vegetable and, like, a Snickers bar. She doesn't know this stuff yet. You know, she's a baby. But when you watch a child eat, they instinctively know when they're hungry,
Mm.
when they're not hungry. They know how much to eat, and they know what they want to eat.
Mm.
And it has nothing to do with, I've been programmed to believe this is good, and I've been programmed to know this is junk food, so I'm going to sneak and get it. You know, so it's so enlightening to watch them actually watch their response to foods when they try a food, to kind of see their initial response to it. We can learn a lot from watching the way and that's how we were when we were really little.
Yeah.
We knew what to eat. I know you've talked about that with your son, that he was always really an intuitive eater.
A real intuitive eater, and also used to eat with their hands. And it's really important that we are actually designed to eat with our hands, because that's starting the feedback process straight away. And what's brilliant is you see it all the time, is the parents can influence. So if the parents have got a thing that children don't like eating greens, you can see the parents' body language often think, oh, go on, or go on. No, the child's picking up. Whilst if you would say, if you're really lucky, I'll give you some spinach, you get a very different response. And we see it all the time. But it's such fun, isn't it, Bryce, when you go on this journey of discovery? And it's like when people are saying, well, should I take this supplement? I'm like, well, how's it working out for you? And also,
Yeah.
the other thing is, people do not do things consistently enough. So they'll go from one phase to another, but you have to allow it time to work in the body, because the body has to adjust to the new stimulants. You know, the microbes that are the bad gremlins need to start dying off, and the good gremlins need to start taking over. And so one of the things is we're so programmed into wanting instant responses that often we don't give time, whether it's exercise, whether it's a new job, whether it's a new habit, whether it's different foods, to actually really listen to what our bodies are telling us. Which is why I love what you did in the shadow work challenge, to say, write it all down, wait. And this is what all the top, you know, when I studied with Paul Chek, that's what he does. You have to see how you are responding, and your response will change over time. So if you're trying to wean yourself off some stuff that you know isn't serving you and wean yourself in, you have to allow time for your taste buds to change, for the microbes to change, so you start craving different stuff. It's such a lovely journey for people to go on, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think too, I love how you say that the whole green vegetable thing. That's so true. Cause like not all vegetables are the same either, guys. Like
Yeah.
I'm allergic to broccoli. I'm absolutely allergic to broccoli. It makes me very sick, but I love spinach.
Mm.
So it's not just so maybe think about that. I love you said the green foods. Is it vegetables that you're repulsed by? Or is it maybe one particular vegetable that maybe made your stomach hurt as a child, and maybe you've now associated all vegetables, that mental association, and go back and re-experiment. Have fun with it. Like this is what's it's kind of fun because you can experiment and you might find that there are foods that actually serve you really, really well that
Yeah.
you're shocked to learn that they serve you really, really well. You know, it's if if your body doesn't is rejecting something, there's a reason because maybe you don't need that particular nutrients. And it's kind of like,
Completely.
you know, so in certain points you're going to want a particular food over other, and that's because your body needs that nutrients at that moment. And yeah, it's this is so it's so crucial. You know, health starts in the kitchen. A diet starts in the kitchen. If you can't outrun a bad diet, you can't out yoga a bad diet. You know, your body is so powerful, and it's going to constantly, and you know, too, Catherine, so we look at like food restriction. Now, I do believe that most people eat way more than they should. And I think a lot of that is because a lot of our foods aren't nutritionally valuable. And so even though the body has something in it, it's still looking for that nutrients. And so people start to snack. Now, what's interesting too, though, once you start to observe this, I was thinking about this morning as well, Catherine. There was the show. It's been on multiple nations called The Biggest Loser. I used to love watching that show because I love watching success stories of people. But I remember there was this one kid that was like really young and he had lost a lot of weight, but he got to this place towards the end of the competition where his weight was plateauing. So Bob Harper, one of the trainers, was like, "We actually need to add more food to your diet. We actually need to feed you more in order for you to drop more weight." So pay attention to that as well, because sometimes we don't want the body to go into starvation mode, but yet we don't.
Absolutely.
These are all subtle things, and everybody's going to react differently. Everybody's body. I know for me, as a Vata Pitta, I'm not particularly a snacker. Like I don't really, I would be very happy if someone would just put food in capsules and I could just eat it during the day because then it wouldn't distract me from what I'm doing. But ironically, for Vata Pittas, we need to snack. We need to eat like 5 times a day because our first sign of hunger is we start to kind of fade out, right? Whereas someone's more kapha based is going to be able to go longer without food. But that's what we're saying. There's no set standard. You have to figure this out. You are the alchemist. You have to figure out your own magic, your own body's mechanics. And when you start to figure that out, when you start to notice those subtle body things, you're going to be able to take your power back. Like if you realize, oh man, I'm like Bryce. Now I realize that when I first sign of hunger is I start to kind of I start to space out a little bit. Interesting. Okay, that maybe tells you something. Maybe you're someone that needs smaller meals throughout the day versus 3. I don't know, but that's up for you to figure out. And you will know, Catherine, won't you? Once you figure out the perfect rhythm for you.
It makes all the difference. It's like with fasting. We've spoken about this before. There are a lot of biological benefits to fasting, mainly because as you say, most of us eat far too much because what we're eating is very nutritionally depleted. However, certain body types like mine do not respond well to fasting at all.
Okay.
So I have to have, if I don't have a good breakfast in the morning, I feel really ill all day.
Yeah.
So you've got to listen to yourself and really work out what works for you and be, you know, in tune enough to override certain things that are given as blanket statements that just do not suit us all. Because we've all got different lifestyles, you know, we all go to bed at different times, get up at different times, have different stressors, have different toxins in us, which will be affecting all this as well and affecting what we're craving and what we're not.
I'm losing you. Okay, okay. Say something. I just lost you there for a second.
Hello? Yeah, it's weird because I can hear you.
I just lost you.
How weird.
Oh, there you are. You're back again. Okay, yeah.
That's
Someone that
really weird. I don't know. Da-na-na-na.
We must be on to something, Catherine. Someone
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. Some people do really well with fasting, others don't. And I'm the same way, Catherine. I'm a Vata Pitta. I'm not, it's fasting is not good for me, for my body type, but for some people it's very valuable. Now I do know it's good to rest your colon. So what I typically do, what works for me is I stop eating after 5 p.m. That's my cutoff date or cutoff time. And so then I go to bed around 7, 8, we get in the bed. And so then I sleep until the morning. So that gives me a good, while I'm sleeping, good time to let my colon cleanse and do what it needs to do without it interrupting, my mind or my energy for the day. And then I'll eat after I do my morning practice. But yeah, this is so fun. And this is so, I mean, I swear you guys, once you start, and as you said, Catherine, give yourself time to integrate this into you, because it is going to take, they say, let's look at, like, let's say you date a person for a year and then you break up. They say it takes about 6 months to get over that, right? So when you've got some toxicity in your life, it's going to take, you got to kind of divide it. It's not going to take as much time, but you're going to have to take a little bit to let your body kind of transfer into the new pattern, the new patterns that your habits you're creating. And don't be surprised if you start exercising and eating clean or different, that you might feel a little under the weather for a couple of days. That's okay. It's just your body is actually at that point detoxing and it's releasing what it needs to release. Just drink your water. And how many people are dehydrated? How many people are walking around dehydrated and don't even know it?
Most people, absolutely, most of us. And again, it's so important, because none of your metabolic processes can work properly without hydration. So I think we should ask everyone in the chat to let us know your questions. Have you got questions on this subject matter? What would you like to hear more of? Because we talk about taking our power back. We talk about being more awake. We talk about not being controllable, but it all starts with our physical health. And when we get that on board, and when we get that on point for ourselves, as I said, we're not only aiming for perfection necessarily, but we can all upgrade this so much more. And it would just make such a difference to all our lives.
I would love that. I would love for you guys to ask those questions, because Catherine and I can try to help you with anything that you need. And I will say too, Catherine and I have, along with our friend Shanti and some other people, we do have on Signal a support group. It's an EA shadow work support group, and it's like 300 people in there that are all working on this exact thing, and they're supporting each other and giving each other tips and talking about it. And it's an incredible group. So if you're on Signal, let's look for the EA shadow work group. It's a private group because we don't want people's personal business being out there, but one of our moderators will let you in. And yeah, continue to ask us. I love this topic, Catherine. I
love it. I think it's where we need to be spending more attention, because it's so hard to really make good decisions when your body's really struggling, because when your body's struggling, your mind's struggling, your spirit's struggling, and we can all make huge upgrades much more simply than most people are led to believe. So It's a really fun process getting to know yourself again, and it all starts with this.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Thanks so much, Bryce. We will be back next week on Esoteric Atlanta, so come and find us there. And any questions, any topics you'd like us to discuss, please put in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you.
For sure. Bye, guys.
Bye. So I just wanted to say that today's episode is sponsored by ASEA redox signaling molecules. Now, it comes in two forms, the liquid and the gel, plus there's a huge other product range for us. But why did I start taking ASEA, and why is it now an integral part of something that my whole family, both four-legged and two-legged, take every single day? Plus also something that all the clients I work with, again, four-legged and two-legged, it's number one on my priority list. Well, part of what I do, what I'm passionate about, is understanding the challenges that are affecting each and every one of us in today's modern living. The more you know, the more sometimes you wish you didn't know, but the pollution in the air, in the water, in the food, the control of our minds, the propaganda. But one of the things that we can do is take back responsibility for our own health. Now, every single cell of our body, whether we're an animal, whether we're one of the dogs in the backgrounds or one of my plants, contain these redox signaling molecules. And cellular health and cellular communication is absolutely key, whether you want to get your body back in balance, whether you want to reverse the aging process, whether you want to address any particular challenges that you've got physically, emotionally. It all starts with healthy cells. If your liver cells are healthy, your liver's healthy. If your brain cells are healthy, your brain's healthy. But just like a mobile phone, most of us have got mobile phones that we use on a routine basis now, but that mobile phone, regardless of whether you've got the latest model, is completely useless without a signal. So what does this technology do? The gel is something that you can apply topically over particular areas of concern, whether you want your skin to look better, whether you've got a cellulite, whether you've got an area that's causing you a challenge. The liquid is something you drink each and every day to top up what should be in your cells anyway. But when our bodies are stressed, diseased, challenged, or as we age, we make less of them. So personally, I wouldn't be without it. My sleep's better, my energy levels are better, my mood's better, my mobility's better. If you want to find out more, the details are below. But I'm so grateful that this came into my life, and I'm so grateful I can share it with others. I hope you love it as much as I do. Let me know.